For Monza, Ferrari was not on the podium. No other team gets such huge celebration for losing. Ferrari is treated like the god of racing. This kind of support should come from a reputation of winning. And yes, they have built a reputation of winning. But you want to know something crazy? Did you know that the only time Ferrari has won is when they were not Ferrari? Huh? Let me explain. There's a big mystery we're gonna unpack. But first we need context. History lesson. The first Grand Prix was in 1906 and it was held in France. A Renault won. Enzo Ferrari was only 8 years old. Throughout the 1930s, it was the Silver Arrows that dominated. This was the unofficial Formula 1 racing series. And if you didn't know, Enzo himself later started racing.
1919. His debut was at the Parma Poggio di Berceto Hill Climb, where he finished a respectable 4th in his class first major event. He competed in the Targa Florio, a brutal open road race in Sicily. He finished 9th, a solid result for a rookie in a grueling event. His solid performances got him noticed. In 1920, he achieved his dream. He became a works driver for Alfa Romeo. This was his big break. He was a reliable team driver. He understood the mechanics of the car intimately and was good at bringing it home in one piece, a valuable skill in an era of fragile machinery. He was mechanically sympathetic. His most significant win came at the Circuito del Savio in Ravenna. This victory is legendary not just for the win itself, but for what happened afterward. He met the parents of Count Francesco Baracca, Italy's top fighter ace from World War I. The Count's mother, Countess Paolina, told Enzo to paint her son's good luck symbol on his cars, a prancing horse, Cavallino Rampante. This was the birth of the iconic Ferrari logo, but Enzo was not a fearless racer. He felt the immense pressure and danger of Grand Prix racing. The most telling incident occurred in 1924. He was scheduled to drive in the French Grand Prix, one of the biggest races of the year. On the eve of the race, he suffered a nervous breakdown, bout of anxiety, and so he withdrew. He knew deep down that he didn't have the same ice in his veins as the top champions. This experience was crucial. It gave him a profound understanding of a driver's fears and egos. The definitive end to his driving career came in 1932 with the birth of his beloved son, Alfredo, known as Dino. Enzo promised his wife, Laura, that he would stop taking the risks of racing to be a father. This was a promise he kept. So Enzo was running Scuderia Ferrari that he founded in 1929 with that prancing horse emblem on it. In fact, the first time the prancing horse appeared on a car was at the 24 Hours of Spa race in 1932. But by this time, Enzo was more involved in the admin part of racing. He wasn't building Ferrari race cars yet. Scuderia Ferrari was the de facto works racing team for Alfa Romeo. He realized he was a much better manager than driver. He spent the decade running the show for Alfa and learning the politics of the sport. In the late 30s, Alfa Romeo decided to bring its racing department back in-house under the name Alfa Corse. They offered Enzo a subordinate role as a team manager. For a man of Enzo's immense pride and ambition, this was an intolerable insult. He furiously quit and made his own race cars. In reply, Alfa forced Enzo to sign an agreement stating he could not use the name Ferrari in connection with racing or building cars for 4 years. Enzo, forced to operate under a different name, he founded Auto Avio Costruzioni. In 1940, he built his first car, the AAC 815. It was based on Fiat parts and was not particularly successful. Then the war halted all racing. Enzo's factory in Maranello was forced to manufacture machine tools and aircraft engine parts for the war effort. The factory was bombed by the Allies in 1944 and again in 1945. The war was a period of survival and planning. After the war, the 4-year non-compete clause had expired. Enzo was now free to use his own name. He had a critical realization. To fund his true passion racing, he needed to sell cars to wealthy customers. In 1947, the very first car bearing the Ferrari name was born, the Ferrari 125S. It was powered by a tiny but magnificent 1.5-liter V12 engine designed by Gioacchino Colombo. Then came the racing one. Then we saw the first ever official Formula One championship.
For the first official Formula 1 championship of 1950, Alfa Romeo raced a 12-year-old design that they had improved. The engine produced an eye-watering 350 horsepower. Alfa Romeo knew what they were doing. As for the first official Formula 1 Grand Prix held at Silverstone, Farina in his Alfa Romeo won. One manual Fangio, the legend, had a mechanical problem, but Nino Farina and the other two Alfas lapped everyone on the grid more than twice. Enzo saw the prize money as too little for the first Grand Prix, so he didn't participate. What, Enzo? You didn't even know if you were going to win any prize money. How can you even talk about it? Well, when came the Monaco Grand Prix, Ferrari joined, and the Ferrari was on the podium. Fangio won. Swiss GP won, Ferrari came 5th while the other retired. At Spa, one Ferrari started and finished 5th. In the end, Alfa Romeo won the 1950 and 1951 championships. Back to back. So Alfa was there from the start, and they won the first two official Formula 1 championships. So Ferrari had a blisteringly good start. I mean, that podium in Monaco actually meant a lot. Those days you were lucky to finish a race. Coming 5th was like coming last. But then for the new year of 1952, Grand Prix racing was getting expensive. Alfa Romeo literally pulled out. Not because they wanted to though. The thing is, Alfa is state owned, not privately owned like Ferrari. And the state was going through financial trouble, so they committed the forbidden crime. They hurt the Alfa. BRM had problems. In the end, Formula 1 couldn't keep itself alive. However, they did have one idea that could save the game. Running with Formula 2 regulations to save cost. Save the team, save the competition, bring back Alfa. Thing is, because Formula 2 is much simpler, less expensive, and just plain slower and easier, well, so Enzo was very involved in Formula 2. It suited him for the time. In fact, Ferrari was dominating Formula 2 with the 166. So Enzo, knowing that he's made a good Formula 2 car from how much he's been focusing on that, he heavily backed this idea of running Formula 1 with Formula 2 regulations. He was part of pushing it into action. And so it was put into action, and they won. Ferrari won the championship. 1, 2, and 3. They proved that they can make the better go-karts.
You've got to love that. The immediate power from an electrical engine. That is 70 miles an hour already, and it isn't enough.
Who won that? It was me, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's not important though, is it?
Is it not?
No, it's just not relevant.
Right. In a drag race, it's irrelevant which car gets there first.
Yeah, yours is the better milk float.
The playing field was set for Enzo. To be fair, I'm gonna say there was some glory in this win. Ferrari wasn't starting out, but they weren't here since Silver Arrows and Alfa Romeo. They're kind of as new as Oscar Piastri, but the difference is Oscar Piastri is fighting for the Formula 1 champion. Ferrari won 1 and 3 in 1953 too. Fangio in his Maserati was the one who split the two, coming second. But after that, the go-kart started getting back to the truth of Formula 1. So Fangio then moved to the Silver Arrow for the 1954 and 1955 season. The tracks were painted in silver. Maserati was also performing well, but the Ferrari wasn't competitive at all. It sucked. This was known to Ferrari very early on in the year, so what he did was rather use the time of 1954 to build for the future.
To compete with the mighty Mercedes W196, the Lancia car company, under the direction of Gianni Lancia, son of the founder, decided to enter Formula 1. They hired the legendary designer Vittorio Giano to build their car. The result was the Lancia D50, arguably the most innovative and beautiful Grand Prix car of its era. It had several revolutionary features. The V8 engine was mounted at an angle in the chassis. This allowed the driver shaft to run to the side of the driver, not under him, which meant the driver could sit much lower. This dramatically lowered the car's center of gravity. Pioneer fuel tanks. Instead of a single large tank at the rear, the D50 carried its fuel in two large pods mounted on the sides of the car between the wheels. This had two major benefits. It kept the car's weight distribution more consistent as fuel burned off. It provided a major aerodynamic advantage, helping to clean up the airflow around the car. Engine as a stressed member. The engine was a structural part of the chassis, which improved the rigidity without adding weight. The car was quick right out of the box. Lancia's star driver, the great Alberto Ascari, put it on pole position in its very first race. It was a potential world beater. The tragedy that ended it all, the Lancia F1 project, was already under immense financial strain. Then, in May 1955, two devastating events happened in quick succession. Monaco Grand Prix, Alberto Ascari, driving the D50, famously crashed at the chicane and plunged into the water of the Monaco harbor. He was rescued, miraculously unhurt. 4 days later at Monza, Ascari, still shaken, went to the Monza circuit to watch his friend Eugenio Castellotti test a Ferrari sports car. In a fateful, impulsive decision, Ascari decided to drive a few laps. He was wearing his street clothes and Castellotti's helmet. On the third lap, he crashed inexplicably at the Curva del Vialone, a corner later renamed in his honor, and was killed instantly. The death of their superstar driver, combined with the company's dire financial situation, was the final nail in the coffin. The Lancia family decided to shut down their entire racing department immediately. Lancia now had a fleet of brand-new cutting-edge Grand Prix cars with no team to race them. They were a national treasure, and letting them rot was unthinkable. At the same time, Ferrari's own cars were proving uncompetitive against the Mercedes. Enzo Ferrari was desperate. With the help of major industry players like the Agnelli family, who owned Fiat, a deal was struck. It was less of a sale and more of a national rescue mission. In July 1955, Lancia gifted its entire racing operation to Enzo Ferrari. This included 6 complete Lancia D50 cars, all the spare engines, parts and blueprints. Crucially, they also transferred the legendary designer Vittorio Giano and his team to Maranello. The aftermath, the Lancia Ferrari. D50 Ferrari immediately began modifying the cars. They removed the iconic pannier fuel tanks, Enzo preferred a more traditional design, and rebranded the cars as Lancia Ferrari D50S. This single act transformed Ferrari's fortunes. The gifted cars were far superior to what Ferrari had been building. In 1956, Juan Manuel Fangio drove the modified Lancia Ferrari D50 to win his 4th World Championship, securing Ferrari's place at the top of the sport.
But then at the following year of 1957, Maserati stole the crown, winning the championship. Ferrari won 1958 though. It looked this time that it was a proper fight. Ferrari was good, but then we saw a revolutionary design in Grand Prix racing. A car that was clearly ready to dominate, built around a principle that was discovered but very ignored. This car was the Cooper T51. It had the engine in the mid position with the gearbox mounted in the rear position outside the wheelbase as a transaxle. This was a design, as we know, hardly ventured into, but Cooper had everything to win, so why not win? They did! They dominated! Enzo's response, as you imagined, was, "Alright guys, Cooper made the greatest car in the world. We're going mid-engined." Oh no, you wish. You wish. Enzo was absolutely full of pride in a derogatory way. He called the Cooper the Garagesti, meaning it was thrown together in some garage and won by luck. Even though that's exactly how Enzo won. Enzo Ferrari clearly said, the horse must pull the carriage, meaning the engine must be in front. And so he kept on losing. The Lancia Ferrari was an amazing car, but it was getting outdated. Other cars were evolving and getting faster, and clearly Enzo couldn't improve anything on what he was given. All he could do was blame his drivers. This is the moment we have to roll back the curtain and light up the dark. Another flashback. See, during the 1916 Spanish flu, Enzo lost his father and his brother. He himself contracted the disease and was nearly left for dead. This early intimate experience with death, along with being forced to fight in the army, instilled in him a brutal, unsentimental, very cheap view on life. He was also very resentful. His childhood trained him as a survivor, and now look where he's come from to where he is now. He made Ferrari his racing cars in Formula 1. This experience crafted a very intelligent and extremely powerful man in Enzo Ferrari. But gaining strength and wisdom is one thing. How you use it says if you're really smart or not. You see, pride is looked at as a bad thing, and that might be true, but again, I'm gonna say it. It's about the way you use it that says if you're really smart or not. In the 1930s, for a while, Enzo Ferrari was the team manager for Alfa Romeo. His two top drivers, Tazio Novellari and Achille Varzi, they were already fierce rivals. And in Enzo's mind, he thought he can push them to break new ground, performing better by weaponizing their rivalry. He would subtly favor one over another, then the other over the other, promising a better car strategy to the one, ensuring neither man ever felt secure. He believed their personal hatred would push them to extract performance from the car that mere professionalism could not. Enzo built internal wars, confusion and strife, believing in his theory as a religious rule to top performance. Pressure creates performance, he said, but this wasn't pressure, this was confusion. Difference. He saw his drivers not as human teammates, but as replaceable components that performed optimally when stressed. But his car was his darling. If anyone said a word against his car, they'd have a shadow over them as long as they're in his team. After the war by the 1940s, Enzo Ferrari had his own constructed team, Scuderia Ferrari. Once he had put his own two drivers in the shadow realm, he got the nickname the Puppet Master, pulling strings to make them go faster with little regard for life. When I say little regard for life, in March 1957, Enzo Ferrari summoned Castellotti to the Modena Autodrome to try break the lap record. On the third lap, he died, and immediately Enzo got on the phone and called another driver to finish up the testing. But you can't deny it. Enzo's strategy was working. It was very bloody, but often it worked. Not really. Thing to mention, what Enzo famously stated, the horse doesn't push the cart, it pulls it. To justify his sentiment to front-engine cars and hatred to change and evolution, this exposed his laziness, but also another thing. This exposed his obsession with engines, the heart and the voice of the car. That's all he cared about. All he wanted was a big screaming monster, while chassis, brakes, suspension, that was all left as secondary priorities, if they were priorities at all. Drivers were expected to tame these powerful monsters, and as they often complained about the car's flaws, Enzo saw this as a sign of weakness, cause Enzo thought he always had an entitlement to a good car. The Ferrari was the holy grail. If anyone was negative about it, Enzo's reply would be, "You can't say that, it's a Ferrari." The whole team, all the staff, out of fear believed this, thinking of the cars as faultless, until it became a brainworm. They started lying to themselves until they were literally deluded. If a new driver came and complained about the car, oh, they don't need Enzo's fury to come upon him. No, please no. The team would just use the line, "It's a Ferrari." But if you thought the team was one, you're wrong. All the mechanics and engineers, strife was the name of Ferrari's side of the paddock. There were three different sides at Ferrari playing against each other. One was Ferrari, one was driver 1, and one was driver 2. The rest of the Ferrari paddock took their sides. What I mean is those who had balls picked a side other than Enzo. And there was a time when a seasoned world champion had flirted with the Dark Angels. One Manuel Fangio, one of the most talented and at this time one of the most experienced racing drivers of all time. He was actually the greatest. Not a young ambitious driver desperate for a chance, but he was an outsider in the deeply Italian team. Enzo could not dominate Fangio personally the way he dominated his other pawns. He realized one thing: Fangio is big. Though there was one thing Enzo could do. Although he couldn't control Fangio, the thing is sometimes Fangio felt like his car was not properly prepared. Sometimes you got the impression that it didn't get the same care that his teammates' car got. Enzo created an atmosphere of suspicion. He allowed rumors to circulate that the Italian mechanics rather favor the Italian drivers. And then we saw it when Fangio ate the forbidden fruit. He critiqued the car. After a race, Enzo called Fangio into his office, and in a famously cold manner, he questioned his performance. Enzo pointed at the tachometer's telltale needle, which recorded the maximum revs used, and he asked Fangio why he didn't use all the revs he was paying for. It was a direct challenge to the judgment of the world champion, the world's greatest driver at the time. Fangio respectfully didn't take Enzo seriously, though he never felt the unconditional backing of the team, feeling that he not only has to fight the rivals on track, but also fight against his own team. This was all a demonstration of the limits of Enzo Ferrari, because Enzo was the puppet master. And sorry Enzo, but Fangio is not a puppet. So because Enzo's pride was desperately wounded due to not being able to control Fangio, he resorted to creating a hostile environment. Please tell me what part of this is all about racing cars, getting your car to the finish line first. I don't see anything like that. In the end, Ferrari lost Fangio. Just like that. You lose the greatest racing driver because of your own pride. But you know what Fangio got at the end of the year when he left Ferrari? A world championship! He won! He won his 4th world championship with intelligence, composure, and very few words. This spoke louder than Enzo could ever shout at the top of his voice or with any of his engines. But sadly, not everyone was as lucky as Fangio. Not everyone was as smart as Fangio. Cause you see, in Enzo's pride game against Fangio, well, he couldn't harm him in any way. Fangio still managed to sneak out the championship win in spite of all of this. He left immediately and he was out of Enzo's claws. But when it was little bright talents, this is when Enzo was a monster. There was even an Italian nickname giving the idea of him being the devil. Racing is about who gets to the finish line first. A championship is about how many times you can do that to show that it is not luck. But of how much worth are your championship wins when over 4 decades you have to murder one of your drivers for every championship you win? The stat is clear. The ratio is actually more than a 1-to-1. For the 7 drivers' championships won under Enzo, there were 8 drivers' deaths. That puts the DPC, driver death per championship, to 1.14. Put every other single team of the Formula 1 grid together, 6 deaths. They simply couldn't keep up with the devil, winning 17 titles, DPC on 0.35.
Luigi Arcangeli, Giuseppe Campari, Moll, Eugenio Castellotti, Luigi Musso, Peter Collins, Wolfgang von Trips, Lorenzo Bandini, all of them killed by Enzo Ferrari.
And the scary part is Enzo's bloody body count just mentioned is strictly of Formula 1 Grand Prix drivers that drove directly under Enzo Ferrari. This is not even including Alberto Ascari's death, that is a mystery till this day. Till this day, huh? Antonio Ascari was Alberto's father. He raced until the 26th of July at 36 years old when he died crashing at a high-speed left-hand corner. This was 4 days after a previous crash. Years later, Alberto Ascari, a 2-time world champion. He used to race for Enzo. He won 2 of the 7 titles with Ferrari, but then he left because he didn't like the way things run. Alberto was fast, but a safe man who enjoyed having his life. And Lancia had a better car, the D50. Ring any bells? So Alberto made the move, and Enzo was obviously furious. At this time, Alberto was 36 years old, and on the 22nd of May, 1955, Alberto Ascari crashed at Monaco Harbor, shaken but not badly injured. Enzo had a private meeting with Alberto, but this was different to the one with Fangio. No one else knew about it. A day later, on the 26th of May 1955, Castellotti, the new Ferrari driver, he called Alberto to come to the Monza circuit. Alberto didn't bring his helmet or racing suit, just a shirt, jacket and tie. He got into a Ferrari sports car to test it. He did have a helmet, but it wasn't his own. It didn't even fit properly. Speeding toward Curva del Violina, he left the track. He was flung out of the car. Ferrari crew had the crash within seconds guarding the scene. Alberto was taken away, and the scene was covered as a mystery to the public. 4 days after a previous crash, on the 26th, at 36 years old. This was the code. Lancia saw the writing of warning on the wall, written by Enzo Ferrari, with Ascari's blood. Lancia was forced to sell their souls to Ferrari to save their own lives. Lancia gave all their D50s, their spare parts, all the blueprints, everything. To not draw attention, keep everything politically safe, Enzo made sure to keep this known as a donation, because Lancia was in crisis. Bullshit. Their only crisis was Enzo. Enzo didn't save the Italian racing team. He cannibalized his rivals and called it patriotism. Enzo said that before Alberto was weary of destiny and fate catching him just like it caught his father. What fate, Enzo? The one you made. Stars don't align. That's nonsense. This was all nothing less than what Enzo esteemed as an art of codes and numbers, with Alberto and his father's blood. Bersaccini and Novellari also left Ferrari for the same reason Alberto did, and Bersaccini was killed. Novellari was the one man who managed to defy the demon of Enzo Ferrari. Death chased him 4 times, and it didn't succeed. The one time his car was literally disintegrating, dissolving under him. But he somehow lived. But as we know now, life at Ferrari was hanging on a thread. If we reanalyze Enzo Ferrari's bloody body count, considering other racing categories and not just Formula 1, the number goes beyond 40. We haven't even gotten to the 1970s yet. We've just started. Ferrari is as new as Oscar pastry. In resentment to fate of what happened in the Spanish flu and in the army, and with an uncontrolled hunger for power. Winning titles was his job, and blood was his bread and water. The scarlet red of the Ferrari has nothing to do with racing. It was one thing: blood.